That's good.
Welcome everyone to Season 3, Episode 98 of the Premier Pod. I'm your host, Yash Bika, joined by my co-host, Tyler Chan. Before we get things started, we have to talk about first our kits for the people that are listening on the video pod. I am rocking funny story here. This is actually a fake Real Madrid jersey. My girlfriend actually got it for me when she did a study abroad in China, I think 3 years ago. It's Cristiano Ronaldo on the back. So I think this is actually the 2016-17 Ronaldo, I think Real Madrid's third alternate kit jersey. So this one's pretty cool, but obviously it's not a real one. But Tyler, it looks like you're rocking a training top today.
Yeah. I mean, your jersey's looking pretty good. Like, I couldn't tell.
Hey, we're on video, so
all be like, my friend was telling me, he's like, jerseys, real or fake, they come from the same place. I'm like, okay. Okay. But for my jersey, I'm wearing a Liverpool training kit from this season. The one that has Nike. Like a lot of
I see the Nike
icons on it. Yeah, look at that Nike. So I had to get it. I was like, oh, this is such a sick kit because I really like the kits that look good enough where you can just wear it as like a normal shirt. And then people will still think it's like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So this one just happens to be a training kit.
Nice.
So I like it.
Yeah, no, it looks good. And that's a new training ground sponsor.
This is their training logo, like AXA.
Okay, there we go.
I believe it's insurance in England, but it's a lot different from the standard chartered Asian bank that's on the usual jersey. So
yeah,
they're still keeping it with the money business kind of the logo. Hey, a lot like Atlanta United having a American Family Insurance, but
yeah.
Sometimes it do be like that.
And you got Fly Emirates. At least you don't have a big Chevy logo on yours.
I was going to say, what's your favorite sponsor for a jersey that you can remember?
I guess for United, I always really like the AIG. Those were just always really clean. But for me,
insurance.
Yeah. I think for me, Fly Emirates always seems to do a pretty subtle job of I don't know. I feel like it's so normal to see Fly Emirates that you don't even think of it as a kit sponsor. It always just kind of blends in. So to me, I kind of like that. It's not too eye-catchingly poppy where it's a little too much. The Chevy for me is still kind of annoying because there's been some good United kits these past couple seasons, but there's that big Chevy logo that just gets slapped right in the middle of it.
I don't really like it either. It's like if you had a cross and then you just pancaked it.
Yeah.
It's just like, let's just squash it a little bit. It's like Chevy. For me, it's like this is really random, but I believe the team is Stevenage. They have Burger King as their logo.
No way.
So it just looks so goofy just to have the Burger King logo on the center.
Or is it like the actual, if you go to the fast food restaurant right now, that logo, the burger,
that logo, if you went to go to the actual restaurant, it's so funny. It's just so off place. It's not the prettiest, but it just looks really goofy to me. And I also prefer having a logo from something that's not as business. Oh, I guess, all these are businesses, obviously, but it's just one that's a little bit more goofy. It's just seeing Carlsberg, the alcoholic beverage, or for Liverpool instead of, a bank.
No, that's funny. Or Heineken.
That's kind of what I like.
I don't know if Heineken, I know Heineken is a sponsor for Champions League, but I don't know if it's been on a shirt or a jersey. So I don't know. No, I agree with you. I think sometimes those wacky ones are kind of really funny just to look at and such. Because I know Angry Birds is on Everton, right? But it's not the full sponsor. It's
it's just on the shoulder.
Yeah, it's
that's a new one. Now you have shoulder sponsors.
Yeah. So Angry Birds is just funny. I forgot that's still an app and stuff.
It's still a game people play.
Yeah. But before we get in a big tangent just about talking about jerseys and kit sponsors, we quickly wanted to open this up with a little excerpt from Spotify. I'm sure all of you know Spotify on Instagram stories, Twitter. Everyone's been sharing their Spotify wrap-up playlists. Basically, it's just a huge culmination of just Spotify tracking what you've been listening to from this past year. And it's pretty cool seeing what people's top artists were, their top genre, their best albums, what songs they listened to the most. Interesting thing for us, since we are a podcast and we publish on Spotify, they actually give us some analytics kind of end of the year, not fully end of the year, but beginning of December. So some interesting ones right here. We have in 2020, we have uploaded 38 episodes to Spotify. which culminates to 1,992 minutes, which, if you do the math, is 33.2 hours. Don't worry, we did it for you. So you didn't have to worry about calculating in your head while you're driving. And our biggest increase actually in listener base is Finland, 100%, and Brazil for 33%. So we got the love from all across the world right there. We were listened to by 16 countries on Spotify from this past year, and we increased our following by 50%. So not a bad 2020. It's kind of amazing seeing how, like, we pretty much uploaded 38 episodes in 2020, which is crazy because it seems like this year has just flown by. If you really think about it,
it's like flown by, but also dragged on at the same time. But to see a 50% increase, that's huge. That's if this was a Roth IRA or just savings, you wish you have like 6 to 10%. So you're seeing 50%. That's huge.
Oh yeah.
And also seeing Finland increase to 100%. I'm guessing we had no followers in Finland, and then at least one guy followed us, or guy or girl. And then like seeing things like that, 16 countries on Spotify. We don't know what our Apple Podcast stats are or Podbean, things like that, at least for the year yet. So for just Spotify alone, these are some pretty cool stats just to see on one of our big platforms that we put the podcast on, to see these kind of stats, because I love me some stats.
Yeah.
So seeing this is really cool to me.
Stats are really cool. And like, once again, shout out to you guys for, listening to us for this whole year. I think that's one of the cooler things, just seeing the increase in following, the different countries that have listened to us, and also obviously the Finland and Brazil spikes. Those are awesome. So shout out to all you guys for the love and support and listening to the show. But I guess that's no better segue to jump right into the show. First, we got obviously in a classic fashion, we like to start off with the game of the week from last week, which was Chelsea-Tottenham. And in classic fashion, we hyped it up too much and it became a stinker. It was a classic Jose Mourinho big game matchup, just goes in looking for a point, and that's all he cares about. And, his dream came true. It was a 0-0 draw. A very, very boring, dull, dry game. And, at the end of the day, Mourinho will like that. He doesn't care. He'll take the point.
This is a big opponent for Jose Mourinho. So it's this class, like I was just saying, I'm just going to echo what he says basically, because it was the struggle. Just seeing a 0-0.
Vintage Mourinho.
Yeah,
Mourinho at his finest.
It's like the primetime game. It's like, all right, nothing. And here's nothing. Like, presenting like a dish, that meme where it's like presenting a dish of food and it's like nothing's in it. Like that's basically it. But if anything, they got a point. And so did Chelsea. Tottenham actually, surprisingly enough, this season have only conceded 9 goals so far. That's and they have one of the best defenses in the league.
Chelsea actually have a pretty good defense this season too.
Yeah.
Edward Mendy, man. Who would have thought taking Kepa out of goal?
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Improve your
defense. Save wavelength there. But this was a very just Chelsea dominant possession kind of game. It was just, letting Chelsea have all the possession, take the shots, and then having Tottenham counterattack when need be. So this is very reminiscent of the park the bus classic Mourinho tactics as well. This is not very surprising to see in this kind of match. It was a little unfortunate given that it was such a good matchup, being a London derby, but for us, I feel like we did kind of jinx it. I literally texted Yush during this game. I was just like, I think we jinxed the game.
I was like, yep.
It was like, we knew this was a possibility after you saying, oh, this is going to be a great match. And then it's like, psych. Nope, it was not. But if anything, Tottenham are still on the top of the table. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, for any Tottenham fan, this is, I think, the longest stint they've been top of the league in the Premier League for the past decade. Yeah. So this is like, they'll take it. If it's a draw, if it's an ugly game, that all they care about is points, and that's Mourinho for you right there. Mm-hmm. So
it's big news for them. It's big news for them because they obviously have the better goal differential than Liverpool and stuff. But for Chelsea, it's one of those games you kind of feel like they should have won or try to at least score a goal here or there. But, they're still doing pretty good and chugging along. But like Tyler said, there's really not much to go into, in terms of talking about this game. So we'll kind of just switch over to the Southampton-Manchester United matchup, where it was a crazy game. Southampton took a 2-0 lead in the first half, and then United roared back with Edinson Cavani scoring 2 goals, scoring the game winner to win it 3-2. For me, it was one of those classic games of just in a lot of ways, kind of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer kind of getting outclassed a bit in the first half. Ralph Hasenhüttl had his got the tactics right in the first half. The press was just too much for Manchester United. Southampton just looked like they wanted it. James Ward-Prowse was like hit what probably another excellent free kick, something he does very routinely at this point. But man, Southampton looked really good, and then got to give credit to Solskjaer a little bit. He did bring in the subs of Cavani and such, and that changed the game a lot. But for me, Edinson Cavani, when I was watching that game, it's still shocking to me that he was a free agent for that long in the summer transfer window, because he's shown in his brief stints right now that he still has a lot of quality. And even for someone as old as he is, which is I think he's 33 at this point, 32 or 33. He still has a lot of quality within him, and and like the way he's playing, it almost seems like he's trying to prove himself to everyone that wrote him off and such. So that to me is still a little shocking that a lot of European clubs didn't snatch him up sooner, considering how good of a player he still is.
It might have been the wage.
Yeah,
it might have been one of those old players who's like, I've been in the game for a while. I'd like a 150K.
Yeah, to be fair, his wage isn't to the point where it's like Alexis Sanchez or Falcao wages. And obviously Manchester United are a club that can afford, one of those big clubs that can afford, relatively high wages. So it's one of those things. But yeah, I'm pretty impressed for a Manchester United fan, for him to take the number 7 shirt. He's done pretty well. And I think, he's already outperformed Falcao in 2 months at the club than Falcao did as a whole season. That South American striker curse that we've kind of had wearing that number 7. So to me, it's good to see Cavani firing at a very high level right now.
Mm-hmm. He literally put the team on his back and helped United come back from 2-0 down. We thought like David Beckham regen Ward-Prowse just kind of put the game to bed a little bit. But that it was like his free kicks are just so precise. It's just so precise.
It's so good. Like his free kicks are so good. You just kind of wonder if like a club would just snatch him up just for his free kicks. But obviously, he's kind of made a name for himself at Southampton, being that box-to-box midfielder and being that person that takes the free kicks. But gosh, one thing that did scare me was David De Gea got a knee injury in that game after trying to save that free kick. I think he hit his knee on the post, and Dean Henderson actually had to come in. But as we saw in the Champions League game this midweek, David De Gea did return back in the lineup. So it's not, I would say, Dean Henderson's chance to shine. Because unfortunately De Gea got back healthy and such. So
unfortunately, De Gea is healthy.
Fortunately, I'm still David De Gea backer, but I'm looking for Dean Henderson's perspective. It's not his time to just take over the United goalkeeping rim. But to me, in the grand scheme of things, I think it's one of those games that still shows that United need, I think, a proper manager. I would say someone that takes it, that can elevate the squad consistently. To perform consistently, because this is just too much inconsistency. It's like one half were good, one half were bad, one quarter of the half were really good, one quarter of the half were really bad, mismanagement. It's just signs of just like there's too much inconsistencies. And it kind of reminds me, like a lot of people like to make jokes that this United team under Solskjaer is just vibes FC. And I think back of the FIFA 21 song, it's like new Heat Waves, the song. Because late night, I'm thinking about you. And I just feel like that song just plays in the locker room. And it's just like when they lose, it's just a vibe of like when you get smashed 3-0 and that song comes on, everything's all good. So to me, that's just what United are, just the consistently inconsistent team of the Premier League. So I'll just put a bow on Manchester United right there. And we'll move over to Brighton-Liverpool, which ended up finishing 1-1. But I think the biggest storyline of this game was Klopp, after in the post-game interview, basically went after the Premier League, and more specifically, he kind of got a little flack for this, but went after the broadcaster that was giving the interview, which was conducting the interview for the Premier League. Klopp kind of went after him a little bit, and in a sense, started blaming him for the scheduling of games, and the broadcaster kind of clapped back and said, it's not, how are you putting the blame on a broadcaster when I'm not the one making these big decisions? You should be going up to your board level and talking to them about this stuff. And basically the whole argument is around the 12 p.m., 12:30 kickoff, lunchtime kickoff on Saturday. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has blasted Premier League for it, and Klopp has gone out to do it. Mourinho and Pep Guardiola have also gone after this scheduling conflict. So, I don't know. I wanted to hear your thoughts about that. I didn't think it was a really good look for Klopp per se to kind of go after the broadcaster. I mean, I have no problem with him going after the Premier League, but I thought going after the broadcaster and getting snarky at him for like no reason was just a little bit overboard, I would say.
I think it's just a little bit of that frustration of having such a decimated team from injury, because I think in the same game, James Milner picked up a hamstring injury, and the interviewer asked, James Milner, hamstring injury, ? And then Klopp just replies, yes, congratulations, that's what happened. So I think just seeing one of the Swiss Army knives of the team, just the player that usually isn't injured also pick up an injury in this basically plague of injuries for the team, it's just been very frustrating for Klopp, because also on top of that, the scheduling just doesn't help and just more so compounds that issue of seeing more injuries for the team. And for the people that have to step up, like Nico Williams, Nathaniel Phillips, it's not easy for them. And it's a lot of pressure for them, because Nico Williams, he didn't really have a great game against Brighton either. And there's been a lot of criticism from people, not Liverpool fans, in my opinion, that are saying, Liverpool don't have a decent backup. It's like, what do you expect? He's literally the backup for the best right back, in my opinion, in the world right now. So, of course, he's not going to be a carbon copy. Mm-hmm. He can really only do the best he can, because he's like a 19-year-old Welsh boy from the academy. So, and he's playing just straight up now, starting for the team that was a former champion. Mm-hmm. So now it's just a lot of pressure all of a sudden just for these players, and kind of getting acclimated to this system really quickly. And I still feel like they're doing a decent job. This game was another VAR massacre. I feel like for Liverpool, it's just 2 penalties against Liverpool and 2 offside goals against Liverpool. We got a little lucky at times, but then also just very unlucky once again. So I feel like, at least for the Salah offside goal, it could have gone either way, but VAR got that magnifying scope out and just like, all right, is he off? It's like, I think he's off by a millimeter. So just little things like that. I feel like if we're going that precise and then it's like a toss up in most other sports, I don't know if this is 100% correct, but I feel like it is. It's just, in baseball, at least, in football, if it's like, if it's going to be a first down or fourth down, they'll measure it. But if it's a little bit of a toss up, they give it the benefit of the doubt and just like let the play continue, or, let the score happen. But at least for VAR in the Premier League, if there's a slight hint that something could be wrong or something goes wrong, then they call it against, what could happen. And the penalty, that game-winning penalty that was called against Liverpool, was because Robertson swung a boot and missed the ball and hit Welbeck's toe. And Welbeck didn't go down until a few seconds after, but it's just little things like that can even cause the penalty too. So it's getting really technical, I feel like, in the Premier League, not only for Liverpool, but just the league as a whole, for just the game itself. Yeah. I feel like it's starting to disrupt the flow just ever so slightly.
Yeah,
because
I was going to say with the VAR, I mean, we kind of know this at this point. It's just they're going to get very technical and very magnifying glass with it, because, at least if one thing, VAR does keep getting like the offside call, they I guess in a way officiate it the same way, where they just continuously look at it very magnified way, and they will break down and bring out the rulers and everything. So you can't really hurt them for that. They're calling it consistently as is, like they're looking at it like a super computerized screen. But the Robertson thing, I think, is the one that I was kind of iffy about. It's one of those things like, technically, he did hit his foot, and you've seen players go down for a lot less. I mean, Liverpool players have done it. United players have done it. City players have done it. I mean, everyone does it. And it's just one of those things. The ref, at the end of the day, who was officiating the game, just kind of called it what he called it. And maybe if there was a different ref, a different moment, and maybe if it wasn't the 90th minute, maybe if this happened in the 23rd minute of the first half, this isn't given a pen. So it's just one of those things. That's probably the biggest criticism of VAR. That part of it isn't very consistent. It's more about what the ref at that moment is feeling like, type thing. And that's probably been like the biggest gruntle or disgruntle with a lot of fans. It's just, okay, we're getting the offsides, I guess, calling correctly or consistently. But when it comes to penalties, it's more of a toss-up of the moment. It's not judged by what the actual law, in a sense, is. It's more about a lot of factors kind of come in, is like the moment, that all of this. So I don't know. I thought it was, at the end of the day, the way they're going to call it, I feel like it was still a pen, because he did like hit his foot. But, I've seen so many arguments. It was back and forth from everyone. So you could make an argument for it or against it.
I still feel like the main inconsistent thing the VAR has is just offsides. It's just, where is offside? Is it the hand, the elbow, the shoulder? Like, which one is it? Like, I still feel like I don't know. And as a fan, 10 weeks in, 9 weeks in, or if not more, it's like, we don't even know. And the players don't even know at some points. So I feel like if that's a thing, if you can't even explain it on a podcast like this, or like the fans who kind of do put in the time to kind of go deeper into figuring out what the rules are, and we still don't know, that's something a little wrong with that. It's like, what? But at the same time as well, for at least the Welbeck Robertson situation, soccer is still a contact sport. Like, things like that will happen, and as just said, it will really be up to the ref to decide what is a penalty and what isn't. But it's just a lot easier now, I feel like, for a ref to decide. It's like, all right, there needs to be a decision that happens here. When sometimes I feel like back in the days before VAR, it could have just been, it's just, it's just how it is for soccer. Just, all right, let's play on. So I feel like we're starting to lose that kind of edge at least in the Premier League, where you kind of start losing the play on and the flow of a game. It's starting to feel at times a bit like an NFL game, where it's like, all right, time to review for like 2 minutes. Or like time to just bring a whole play back because of this, because of like one very small technicality. So it's one of the main criticisms I've seen from just fans and just Twitter comments and things like that. It's just, even the fans don't know when to celebrate a goal at this point. It's just like, all right, we got to check it first.
You kind of lose that excitement, because it's like, wait, okay, now it's a goal. They can't take it back now. So I can't remember the last time I celebrated a goal at this point, actually. Like, maybe in the Champions League final, or maybe in like one of the last games when Liverpool were winning the Premier League. But at least in this season, it's been just like my first instinct now is just thinking, all right, it's not going to be given. No, I agree. I remember when United were making the comeback. I think it was Cavani's first goal. I was like, oh crap, is he offside? He looks like he was offside, but he wasn't, because they didn't have to check. But I was like, okay. And it was just, you kind of lose that euphoric. I was like, yeah, they did it. And then it's like, okay, I got to calm down for a little bit. Okay, there we go. And then you just kind of lose that moment, and such, of like that celebration and everything. Because I think players have started getting used to it now, because there's a lot of times they just check. They like look back at the official just to make sure they're not checking, or make sure it's not offsides and such. So it's an interesting one for sure. But I guess you were mentioning a little bit about the frustration with Klopp. Did you feel like, I know, for me at least, because I work in journalism and such, I feel like I do have more sympathy towards like the broadcasters, because I know how hard it is to kind of go in week in and week out to interview these managers, especially sometimes when they're not coming off the best result, and you kind of have to just ask the question as is. Sometimes I have more sympathy for the broadcasters, because I feel like sometimes coaches in all sports can just get a little snarky and a little just a little bit of in a mood for no reason of their, because they're frustrated. But it's also, I wish they had a little bit more understanding of like, this is their job, and if they don't do this job, they don't get, they get fired, So for me, I thought it was important that the broadcaster kind of just, stood his ground a little bit and didn't get kind of pushed around from, a manager, because I feel like it's important that, that they still ask these questions even in the heat of the moment, where it's sometimes a little bit uncomfortable. So
yeah. It was not the most professional thing from Klopp to say, but maybe Klopp also got the wrong impression from the way the question was asked. Because I feel like maybe if the interviewer is asking for a particular, or prodding for a particular response, maybe Klopp didn't want to give it to him. So I think it's just a little bit of both sides. It could be either seen either way. yes, I see you're saying it's like, you know, he just got to do his job. But
I also
at the
have a
same
unique
time,
perspective because I work in the media and not everyone
Yeah.
works in the media. And more people will actually sympathize with the manager at this point because, like, you know, they're just like fans of the player or the coach or the team. But I guess I have that unique perspective. I work in the media, so it's sometimes I have a little bit more sympathy towards the people that work in the media that are asking the questions. But I will be fair. There's some people that ask really dumb questions, and you can't disregard that. So it's a bit of back and forth. Sir Alex Ferguson used to do this all the time too. Mourinho does it all the time. Pep Guardiola gets snarky all the time. Frank Lampard gets snarky. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has gotten. Everyone does it. So Klopp, I'm not just pinpointing Klopp because it's like, oh, Klopp was snarky. Every manager does this, so it's important to keep that in mind. It's not, you know, no one's perfect. So, you know,
even at like normal jobs, you always get that occasional time. It's like, it's just, I'm not in the mood. It's like,
exactly.
Like, I gotta do it though. It's my job. It's like, all right.
It's like, you know, it's one of those things where it just kind of happens. But yeah, it was an interesting one for sure for that game, and there was just a lot of controversy that happened. But moving on to the Arsenal Wolves game, again, Wolves picking up a 2-1 win. I think we called that. I can't remember what our scoreline was, but I think I somehow picked Arsenal to win and kind of bounce back in this game. But it was a bad game. This game, I saw that Arsenal basically put in 30 million crosses, sort of David Moyes-esque. Back when he was at Manchester United, and Arteta was basically defending it, saying that, if we just got at the end of one of those, you know, we could have had such a big success rate and everything. And it was funny because Mikel Arteta is looking more like David Moyes than he is Pep Guardiola right now, because this Arsenal team cannot score goals unless they're playing in the Europa League, which is a different story, I would say. But Arsenal, what the heck is going on? We were so high on this team, and they just keep letting us down. It's looking like Louis van Gaal who's managing Arsenal right now. They just can't score goals right now.
There's this one clip I saw that someone memed where Mikel Arteta was about to sub someone on, but then right before he got subbed on, I believe it was Klosniak, he just kind of looks into the field and he just starts trying to think. He's just like, And then people are just memeing. It's like, maybe he's trying to remember what Pep Guardiola's tactics board said in 2017 before making up the tactic and telling his player what to do. It's starting to get a little, I'd say, overthought. It's just, it doesn't seem very simple the way Arsenal are playing. It's just, I feel like it's so intricate at this point where it's just like they can't even score a goal from open play still. Yeah. And it's like still biting them in the butt. It's the same issue that we kind of mentioned in the last episode of the podcast where, you know, Arsenal just are the undoings of themselves, where they just can't play free enough to make things happen. So it's kind of weird. At the same time, a lot of Arsenal fans I've seen on Twitter, at least, are just saying there's a lot of players that need to be replaced. There's a lot of players that need to be brought in to kind of make the team better. The quality is just not there. And then certain players are highlighted. It's like, we need these people to be the cornerstones of the team, such as Tierney, Leno, Pepe, and then replace everyone else around them, kind of things like that. Or like, you know, keep Partey in the middle. Like, everyone has their own managerial solutions for what Arteta is doing. But Arteta is kind of losing time to try to figure out a solution because, you know, Unai Emery was in the same scenario when he was the manager. It was just like, all right, just give him a little bit of time. Maybe it's just taking some time for him to get his tactics down and the players, and maybe they'll start to do better, but they never came. And Arteta, I feel like, is not improving.
Yeah, I think you know, they always do this thing where they always compare managers, especially after one gets fired. They compare them like during their first 50 games. And I think the record was pretty much very similar to what Unai Emery had in terms of, I think Emery actually scored a little bit more goals in his first couple games, his first 50 games as Arsenal manager, but record, you know, wins, draws, losses, they're pretty much similar from Unai Emery and Arteta. And I think it's very fun in games to compare, but sometimes I don't really think that's a very apples to apples type comparison because there's a whole bunch of different scenarios that were going on, because you have to look at what Emery still had at Arsenal, what Arteta's inheriting, you know, what the scenarios were. So I think it's still fun to like compare, but I feel like there's a lot of things that, it's very easy to compare surface level things, but there's a lot of deep rooted issues that still need to be figured out. And I think Arteta is still going through that. But, I think a lot of these big clubs like Chelsea did with Frank Lampard, Solskjaer with Manchester United, Arteta with Arsenal. These are young managers that are having these big managerial jobs as pretty much as like almost their first career big head coaching jobs. And we're seeing that this is coming with a lot of growing pains. Last season with Lampard, they looked pretty good attacking wise, but their defense was struggling. And now it looks like Lampard is starting to figure things out slowly but surely. But with Arteta, as you say, it could be one of those things where he's overthinking it. And now he's got to learn on the fly at this huge mega club. And, at a certain point, they're not going to keep, dealing with a bunch of losses and draws and stuff. And Solskjaer is dealing with that as well. So maybe we're seeing a little bit of the growing pains of just chucking in a young 40-year-old manager thinking like he's going to be the next Pep Guardiola.
Mm-hmm. At the same time, we don't really know if it's one or the other. But in terms of whether the issue is the tactics, the manager, or the players. But, I think it's still a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like one thing or the other. But I guess the way to kind of like conclude this kind of section is just, do you think Arsenal have the players to succeed under Arteta?
I don't think they have all of them just yet. I think they still need, just like Manchester United, I think there's still a lot of structural things that need to be put in place. Because I have a friend that's a big Arsenal fan, and he kind of says the same thing, where there's still a lot of structural things that need to be put in place for them to become more consistent. Because like Manchester United, it's still kind of like not wishy-washy, but it's still kind of like up and down. There's a lot of inconsistent ebbs and flows of how this team plays. So I think there's still a couple players away from really challenging. I thought Partey, he has been injured, but I think when he does play, I think they look a lot better, more, just more structurally better as a team. I think Bellerin has been pretty good this season. He's starting to get back and picking up form. Tierney's obviously been pretty good. They just need to figure out a way to get Aubameyang chances to score. He's their main player. This is the best player at Arsenal. And for some reason, they're not feeding him the ball. He's not scoring. They just got to get him out of this rut that he's in. And I think when they do that, I wouldn't be surprised to see Arsenal start picking up some good results sooner than later if they can get him scoring again.
I was just wondering that because on paper, if you just look at all the individual players on Arsenal, they have a lot of good players. Like if you look at the team sheet and then compared it to their opponent that they face, Wolves, a lot of individual players on Arsenal are better than the Wolves side.
Yeah.
Wolves, you can name 5 players off the top of your head. It's like, Adama Traore, Raul Jimenez, and then
like
Podence. You just go
Neto
like that.
And stuff, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But for Arsenal, you can say there's a lot of players on their team immediately. They just pop out. It's like, oh, these are like some of the top players in the world already. Like Aubameyang, and then players who have potential to be some of the best. Like Pepe, I still feel like has that potential. He's just maybe not in the right system or acclimated yet. Mm-hmm. And then Tierney he has like kind of Robertson-esque kind of mentality where he's just like, I don't care what anyone says or does. I'm just gonna do my own thing. And then maybe it's that Scottish connection.
Yeah.
But like Arsenal have the pieces. It's just I don't know if these pieces really fit in this jigsaw of Arteta. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's why. Because in my opinion, at least, Arsenal have a lot of good players, and maybe they do still need a few others to really fit in that they really need to pick up to kind of go to that upper level. But for how they're doing in the league at 14th, I feel like it's a big underperformance. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's an understatement.
Yeah, it's funny that they beat Manchester United at Old Trafford. Everyone thought they were that's the game that takes them to the next level. But it's funny because United are in a better position, in terms of the table than they are. United are only 5 points off from first place and with a game in hand. And Arsenal are the ones still trying to figure out and struggling in the Premier League. So it just kind of shows how wacky the season is. But I wanted to quickly mention with Wolves, a scary situation happened with Raul Jimenez. It came back that he actually had a fractured skull and a challenge with that. I think it was David Luiz in the game. But it looks like he is going to be recovered from the Wolves Twitter account and such. So hopefully we'll be seeing him soon and wishing him a speedy recovery because he's definitely one of the top Premier League players And I would say probably one of the best 20 best strikers, 15 best strikers in the world. He's very, very good. So yeah, hoping for a quick and speedy recovery for him. But yeah, I just wanted to quickly mention that. And these are some quick fire results, kind of shock results a little bit. Fulham beating Leicester City 2-1, kind of crazy. Again, Brendan Rodgers, Leicester City actually did lose again in the Europa League today too. So again, Brendan Rodgers kind of having this weird downward spiral a little bit. He's gonna have to ride the ship, get a little bit more stable. And Leeds beating Everton 1-0. Rafinha scoring a pretty wonderful goal. But Everton, just like Leicester, are kind of off this downward spiral after Everton won 4 games in a row, and everyone thought they were going to be the next Premier League champions. And then Liverpool kind of put them in their place, and now they just have not been able to pick up the form lately. So it's kind of crazy. Kind of crazy.
Yeah. I feel like Everton, thank goodness.
Yeah, Liverpool fan right there. Speaking
as a Liverpool fan, it's like, all right, now they're kind of put in place. But for Leicester, at least, this is a little different to see from Brendan Rodgers' side. Usually that downward spiral doesn't happen until the end of the season. So maybe it's just like a short rut where they're going through. But coming into the Christmas period, that's really dangerous to be not in form.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can spin it where now there's a lot more opportunities because there's going to be a lot of games to kind of change that. So that is pretty surprising. And Fulham, this is a big result for them, I feel like. It's really underrated to see, a Fulham side getting 3 points against, a top team. So I think if anything, we should be highlighting Fulham getting these 3 points because this 3 points is going to be crucial for, the longevity or throughout the season. So.
Because is it I think the table right now, because I think Sheffield are obviously on the bottom because they have 0 wins. And I think Burnley also have 0 wins as well, right?
Burnley has 1.
Okay. Because the bottom 3 is Sheffield, Burnley, and
West Brom.
West Brom. But West Brom, I think, didn't they pick up a result too? I'm trying to remember. But something came in there.
Yes, they beat Sheffield.
Yeah, they beat Sheffield, which is the other relegation side team. So, the relegation battle, as much as we're talking about top 4, the relegation battle in a weird way is becoming a little bit weird this season because it's very rare you see at this point in the season a couple teams only have like 1 win. So it's definitely heating up right there. But wanting to quickly transition over to the Champions League real quickly and talk about the Premier League clubs real quickly. I wanted to highlight. I would say we wanted to highlight Liverpool, Manchester City, and Chelsea. All 3 of those Premier League sides have advanced to the round of 16. So kudos to you guys, holding it down for the Premier League sides. And unfortunately, Manchester United, PSG, RB Leipzig are all tied with 9 points heading into the final match day. Everyone knew this was the group of death, and this scenario definitely shows that it was worth its name of the group of death because Manchester United right now sit on top of the table, but they entered the final match day facing RB Leipzig, and obviously they will go through if they win, and I think they will also go through if they draw because they hold the tiebreaker over Leipzig, and it was a win and a loss against PSG. But PSG obviously faced the weakest team in the group, which is Istanbul Başakşehir. I guess I want to say the name correctly, but for me, when I look back at this group, I know United lost 3-1 against PSG, and for the most part, it looked like they could have won that game. And unfortunately, Fred got sent off. PSG got that second goal, and then obviously they just couldn't stop him on the counterattack. Mbappe. It's crazy when I watch Mbappe, though, because I don't watch enough Ligue 1. When I watch Mbappe, it's amazing to see how skillful and how fast he is. Like, when you think about fast players, Mbappe, to me, when I watch him, he literally outran the whole entire United defense like it was nothing. And it's amazing to me just how fast he is. And watching Neymar is still a treat. But when I look back, I just am baffled that United really missed an opportunity to just clearly, comfortably get out of this group by losing the Istanbul Başakşehir 2-1 in that match day when basically Dembaba outran the entire United defense. It's something that still keeps me up at night because it's one of those things we could have comfortably been into the round of 16, and now we are in squeaky bum time going into the final match day. And I'm a little confident, but also it's a little nerve wracking, I will say.
And it's a little crazy to see. There is a chance PSG could be in the Europa League, I believe, if, they lose and then Leipzig and Man U is a draw. So,
Yeah.
I mean, as much as I want to see PSG in the Europa League, see Neymar and Mbappe playing in there, I think they're probably going to go through. So I think it's going to be very much who gets second, Man U or Leipzig. I still have faith in Man U for this. I feel like based on that first matchup against Leipzig, Man U will have that edge. And also Cavani's just starting to come up as the player everyone was thinking he's going to be, just like the player he's always been in the past decade, I would say. Just a kind of prolific player, a player that can make things happen. While Martial,
Yeah.
missed a few big chances.
Yeah, no, he's been, he's not really kicked on this this campaign. I'm hoping that he can kind of recapture a little bit of that form from last season, but it's kind of, he's almost similar-esque to Gabriel Jesus. I still think Martial is a little bit of a better player than Jesus, but it's kind of that argument that United fans make is like, is Martial really going to take the step to be that number one main striker for Manchester United, like the number 9? And unfortunately, it's been, throughout all these seasons, we've kind of seen spurts of it, but we haven't seen a consistent running. Last season was probably his most consistent season at Manchester United. And still then, I think people still pose the question mark of whether he's the true number 9. And this season, it's still kind of bringing up that question. And with Cavani has shown that, he obviously is a true number 9. So, yeah, I don't know what's going on with Martial. I want to see him kick on, but it's just been a struggling campaign for him to really get going. He's missed a lot of chances. He hasn't been the most sharpest. I think he's getting a little bit sharper as each match goes on, but it's not been the best for Martial right now.
Mm-hmm. I feel like he has the positioning down, and also just certain times placement is just like sometimes just not enough power, or just missing that one ingredient to
he had
get a goal in.
The perfect chance to put it 2-1 United against PSG, and he just skied it.
Just left his shooting boots at home.
I will say, did you see that Cavani's chip that almost could be chip shot?
Oh my gosh.
That would have been insane.
I feel like, do you start Cavani now?
He has been recently, but I don't think you can, because with his age, I think it's kind of a risk with the amount of games being played to start him week in and week out. I think Solskjaer has done a good job of rotating him throughout. Whether that's keeping him on the bench, starting him a couple games, keeping him on the bench. I still think that's the formula to go, because I think you just have to trust that Martial is going to more likely stay fit than Cavani because of the age and everything that goes with that. But I think I would like for them to start him more, but I don't think he has enough legs at his age to just do that continuously, I would say.
Then it's all about the brains.
Yes.
Like those old men you see at your local parks.
Yeah.
Like 70-year-old man still killing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the pickup games. Maybe Cavani can transition to be that guy.
Exactly. But yeah, we'll see. I like Cavani. I think it's been good, but I know you mentioned that you think PSG and United are going out. I still think it'll probably be PSG and Manchester United. And a lot of pundits still think that's going to be the two that advance. But, this is not good. I'm very nervous about going into the final match day against Leipzig, a team that they hammered 5-0, which is definitely going to have the revenge factor in mind. So it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be fun, but we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, we want to transition to the, previewing this weekend of games. We have Chelsea Leeds to start off the preview section. I think this game is very exciting because whenever Leeds play, it's always box office, end to end, just a very fun game to watch. And Chelsea have been very good defensively, but I think Chelsea will probably still win. I think they win 2-1. I think Leeds will somehow find a way to squeak a goal, but I don't think Leeds is strong enough yet to just go toe to toe with a big boy and win consistently.
I've been noticing that. I've been noticing a lot of Leeds games have been just the broadcast game that I just happen to flip on whenever I.
It's fun to watch.
It is fun to watch.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yes, another weekly Leeds game. I feel like I watch as much Leeds as I do Liverpool at this point.
Exactly. At this point.
But I also agree with Yash. I think Chelsea do have the upper advantage in terms of just quality of the team and just the players. They have that really good defense, as Yash is just mentioned earlier in the podcast, because of no Kepa. So I think that will be a big factor. I think Leeds might get a goal. So It won't be too high scoring for Leeds, but for Chelsea, I'd seeing that leaky Leeds defense. It'd be a 3-1, I think, for Chelsea.
Ooh,
maybe Bamford gets a goal for Leeds, but then for the Chelsea side,
scoring against his former club, right? Patrick Bamford, wasn't he a Chelsea player?
I don't remember. I just remember he was on Middlesbrough.
Yeah, Middlesbrough. I feel like he was on Chelsea at one point. He was like a youth player, but that could just be like another player that's off my mind. But yeah,
I will say, whenever you hear certain players, it's like, oh yeah, he was a former United player. He was a former Liverpool player. It's like, what? That guy? It's like, yeah, in the academy at age 13. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, he didn't actually play like in the senior squad and stuff. But yeah, I agree. Leeds United, they're a fun team to watch, but they're just not strong enough defensively to, I would say, consistently get points in the Premier League. And now we have Liverpool Wolves, which is going to be a really good game. I'm curious to see what Liverpool are going to line up with, because like Tyler said, they just keep getting these injuries. But I will say this, barring any other injuries, hopefully not, I think Liverpool have done such just an absolute fantastic job of just somehow managing to stay in first place of the Premier League with the amount of injuries they've had. And to me, I will say Jota, for me, has kind of put himself in that conversation as probably the third most or top 5 most important Liverpool players this season, along up there with, Sadio Mane and Mohamed Salah and, Ali Son, because of the impact he's had. I mean, every game I turn that's a Liverpool game, I feel like he's somehow scoring or assisting at this point.
He's also the one that kind of makes things happen in terms of being the one who gets a shot off or plays a player in. He kind of has that little creativity on him. It was funny during the Brighton game when Diogo Jota was going off and making some magic happen. You just pan over to Lallana on the bench, just like.
Oh yeah, I forgot, that was pretty sad. Lallana, he came on and then gets injured like 10 minutes into the game.
Oh, it was a little rough because I did like Lallana. He was a really good player because he had that little magic turn of his where he just kind of just turns around like so fluidly, so smoothly. But unfortunately, when those games happen, when you are playing against your friend, it's like sometimes you kind of have to forget those friendships for a little bit, at least for those 90 minutes. But hopefully a speedy recovery for him, not much. And hopefully it'll be a good matchup against Wolves, because Wolves, the thing I'm really worried about is just Nico Williams against Podence on that side. It's just, I don't know if Nico Williams can keep up with Podence. He might need some help from Matip or whoever Klopp decides to put at the right center back position. But it will be a big task there. I think Robertson will be able to lock down the other side against Adama or Pedro Neto, whoever Santos decides to play. But I think Liverpool cannot afford to, drop points again. They got really lucky in the Champions League against, oh my gosh. No.
Against, that's a while Ajax. Back. That's a while back.
Yeah. that flashback to like 2014. But I think, you kind of make your own luck, especially in the Champions League against Ajax. And Nico Williams assisted a goal to Curtis Jones. And that's something you love to see, a academy product connection to score a goal and also assist one. So I think that'll be a big boost. I think Liverpool they have to get the win to kind of stay competitive. So I think Liverpool will win 2-1. It's a very long-winded answer, but
yeah, I can't remember what I had my score on, but I think I'll go 1-0 actually. I think Liverpool will win, but I think they could do enough to get a clean sheet there, not keep the scores too similar. And then the big game of the weekend, we have the North London derby, Tottenham versus Arsenal, a game which, surprisingly, as we noted, Tottenham are in first place and they're facing a Arsenal side that are struggling right now. And I don't know what to expect with this game, because in a lot of ways I feel like Mourinho will still want to come in with a point, but I also see that this different side of Mourinho he'll kind of come in and just want to dominate, and they'll find a way to win and break through this Arsenal defense. But I still think at the end of the day, I think Tottenham with Heung-min Son, Harry Kane, and Ndombele, just all the players they have, I think they win this game 2-1. I don't know if Arsenal has enough to stop Tottenham, and also I don't think they have enough to keep up with the scoring that Tottenham have on the offensive side?
I'm just gonna straight up say, like, potentially Tottenham have the tactics and the firepower to win this game 3-0. I feel like that is a possibility, but knowing Mourinho for certain games like this against opponents where it is a little bit more crucial and there will be a lot of emotions being a North London derby, he will try to be a little bit more conservative, and he knows he can be because Arsenal are not going to attack him very well.
So, because Arteta's game plan in big games is usually to be the one sitting back and hit on the counterattack.
So if Tottenham get that first goal, which I feel like they could, all they do is really just sit back, and I think that's what Mourinho will do. And I think it will be a 1-0 to Tottenham.
Jeez.
It'll be a little bit of a tactics masterclass. That'll be a little boring to watch, but
yeah. And Mourinho has a good record against Arsenal. I remember when he was at United, he somehow just like always dominated Arsenal. And even back to his Chelsea days, Arsenal was his kind of not his puppet, but he would just dominate that team like it was no tomorrow. So we'll see if that curse can kind of be broken with the big game this weekend. But yeah, other than that is kind of wraps up episode 98 for us. Thank you guys so much for listening. Please make sure to rate, comment, subscribe, drop us a rating on iTunes. But obviously, a listen is more than enough for us. As we said with all the episodes we've been doing in 2020, it is awesome seeing the support. We greatly appreciate it. I know we say that almost every episode, but it doesn't hurt to keep saying it because it means a lot to us that you guys take the time out of your day to listen. We're also on YouTube at the Premier Pod, where you can see actually the video portion of the podcast if you like. See the jerseys we're rocking, see our background and stuff. But other than that kind of wraps up season 3 episode 98 for us. Thank you guys so much for listening, and that kind of does it for us. Peace.